Well, okay, so I will mention, a celebrity did apply for a dog in my foster group. Um, she is a classic celebrity. I will say she was on the show Wednesday, let's say that. And she
Subtle, Gretchen.
Well, she
there's so
also
many
has a
people
new
on the
season of
show.
her show that just dropped like
Okay.
this
Yeah,
weekend.
that's true. Stephanie, there's so many people on Wednesday, like, duh. Um,
Gretchen's like,
but
I have 2 words, Tim Burton.
yeah, I guess so.
Lots
But
of people
anyways,
work for Tim Burton.
yeah,
Stephanie
lots of
will
people do. She applied for a dog at in my foster group, and the dog she applied for is probably already adopted. Lilac is nothing like her. She's a kind of
Oh.
pity type mix, like real like muscular
Mm.
and stout. So I doubt Lilac will ever go to her. But I do know all about what kind of dog she's looking for, so that's interesting. But yeah.
You have the inside scoop.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I called it the hot dog gossip. So yeah, anyways, welcome to another episode of New York Sofalites, where we have fashion gossip, hot dog gossip, everything that you could ever want, basically. So,
Yes,
and
we have a great show for you today because we've been teasing it for weeks. And finally, yes, we are going to dive deep into the completely bizarre phenomenon that is Emilia Perez, and I'm so excited. We have to start with a little bit of news, which is that this crazy movie won the BAFTA.
really,
It did,
Well,
really, I
okay,
didn't
so
know
not
that.
like the BAFTA, because there's like several BAFTAs, but it won for Best Non-English Language Film.
interesting.
All
Okay.
right.
I did
So,
see Selena Gomez's outfit at the BAFTA. She looked amazing. I don't know if anyone
amazing.
so good. She wears Schiaparelli. So it looked so good.
I love
Um,
her.
Me too. I really am a fan of hers.
I didn't see
But
Benny though. Was he there like in sweatpants as per usual?
I don't know. Maybe he wasn't there. I don't know. I didn't see him either. But yeah, they are very cute, but I didn't see him. I wouldn't be surprised if he was there in sweatpants because apparently it was cold. She was
Mm.
expressing how cold it was while on the carpet.
Wow, I just looked up her dress because I hadn't seen it and I was feeling left out, and she looks stunning. Yeah,
Yeah,
super
amazing.
stunning.
She is
Wow.
stunning. All the
Yeah,
Wow.
best to Selena. We got
yeah.
to get into it.
Yeah.
But first, let me set up the film Emilia Perez, and then for any listeners who have not seen this film, it is streaming for free on Netflix. So if you haven't seen it, pause this, go watch that, come back because we are going to spoil the shit out of this film.
Yes.
And there's some stuff that you may not be expecting. So if you haven't seen it, you will be confused.
Yes.
Um, the film, Emilia Perez, was written and directed by Jacques Audiard. It stars Zoe Saldana, Carla Sofia Gascon, Selena Gomez, Edgar Ramirez, amongst others. It is based on an opera, but there are at least a couple of original songs that Jacques Audiard is also credited as a writer on. Um, both of those original songs were nominated for Best Original Song Oscars. This film has 13 Oscar nominations.
That's so
So
many.
some people really liked it. Um,
Some people really liked it. Stephanie might be one of them actually. So we'll have a discussion.
Um, I do I'm kind of feeling like there were things I liked about it and things I didn't. But I know both of you felt from our previous chat, I think you both felt like maybe the whole musical nature of it wasn't entirely necessary, but I say, why not? Why not?
Well, I think that was one issue. but
Gretchen's like, there are many
well, okay.
issues.
I don't want to. I don't want to. I think before we get into it, we should acknowledge that um, Carla Sofia Gascon. Okay,
Gascon, yeah.
Gascon. She said some pretty terrible things in on Twitter or X, formerly Twitter. Not great. Not great to
We can
her
just call it
co-host.
Twitter.
Yeah. On Twitter. It was Twitter at the time, anyways. But so I
I'm
just want to say
rebelling.
that, like, we don't, that's obviously really problematic. And she obviously was a big part of this movie. And I don't know who found those, but as Rachel mentioned, I think last week, that was probably some dirty Oscar politics, but still, she said some pretty awful things. So do want to mention that.
So would one or both of you mind filling me in on that drama? Because I just know she said horrible things. I didn't read them though, so I don't know exactly what.
Okay. I don't know like the exact tweets, but they I know one of them she called Sir Selena Gomez a rich rat when talking about something about her and the Biebers.
Oh.
But aside from that, she also said some kind of racist things. I think there were a lot of non-white winners at one of the awards. I think it was the BAFTAs actually, and she said something kind of racist about it. I believe there was some Islamophobic stuff in there. Um, I don't remember the exact tweets though. I don't like to keep that stuff in my head. It's possible, but Rachel, do you remember any of them specifically?
I don't remember specifically. I remember them being kind of racist in nature.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
the weirdness following that was that Netflix was kind of like apologetic and was saying that she would not be joining the remainder of the press tour or like the rest of like the Oscar related events. And then she kind of without Netflix's blessing did an interview in which she kind of was, I guess she would say she was standing up for herself.
Mm.
And maybe it seemed like she was not apologetic.
Okay.
Um,
Mm, all right.
Yeah. It's complicated, obviously. But aside from that, I just want to acknowledge that because I know that offended, that is obviously very offensive. But we are just talking about the movie today, not really the
Mhm.
personalities. Though we do love Selena Gomez and Zoe Saldana as
Yeah.
much as we know about them. So we do appreciate them as people and artistes.
and Edgar
Um,
Ramirez, like, honestly, thanks for coming.
yeah,
And
yeah. I actually really like him. I think
Yeah,
he's great.
he's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was pleasantly surprised to see him in
yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah.
it's
He's
always
really
a
I didn't
joy to
realize he
see
was in
him.
it.
yeah, I know. So,
No, he's
Yeah.
like a Spanish speaking Gerard Butler.
no, I thought he was kind of more like this is not meant to be an insult. It's just like, but like a TV Pedro Pascal. Like, that's
Oh,
kind of how I thought of him. Like a little bit,
maybe
not
He
a
does
little
quite.
give
bit.
me some
Yeah,
Pedro Pascal
yeah,
vibes for
yeah. He's not
sure.
doesn't like look as much like him. He just has that same kind of vibe. But
They could
interesting.
probably be competing for some roles.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel like
Yeah.
he's more of like a TV guy. But that's a little.
Anyway,
Anyways, Amelia Perez. Okay, so
yes, let's get to it. Wait, let's quickly summarize the plot of Emilia Perez because it kind of, it's here and there. It starts with Zoe Saldana, who is this kind of like middling attorney, and she's approached by representatives of a major drug cartel leader. She doesn't know why. It's very mysterious. She meets up with him at the time. His name is Manitas, I believe, and he tells her that he would like to transition to being a woman and would like her help. And then it goes on this like whirlwind adventure where she helps this person transition and then is roped back into life when post transition Amelia Perez wants her family to come back and live with her in Mexico. All sorts of things ensue. So Is that kind of like the bones of the plot for everybody?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
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 Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. So do you wanna, like, give a couple of words about our first or about our impressions of it, each of us, or what do you
Well, I
think?
want to hear Stephanie's impressions of it first because I think you were a little higher on the movie than we were initially. So give us your your first impressions. What did you like about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I liked about it was that I felt like it was kind of like a fresh take on the musical, as a genre in movies. And I kind of liked the sort of unconventional storyline. Obviously, it's like Amelia transition and then have remorse over her actions when she was, an active like drug lord. And yeah, I I think those are generally some of the I liked. Yeah, I mean, I liked the performances. I thought the plot was interesting, but I know that there were some problematic portrayals of, at least from what I've read, like possibly problematic portrayals of Amelia Perez as a trans woman, in some of her actions and stuff, and also, um, Latin culture. This was made by a French filmmaker, which I didn't realize at first. And so I know there's some thoughts that he really leaned into the stereotypes of, Latin culture, Latin women. So yeah, I think maybe I liked it a little better than you guys did. I don't know if I loved it, but yeah, it definitely made me think, which is important.
I would agree with that. I would say it definitely made me think. And I think it made us all think, which is, you know, kind of, I mean, it's a good thing. We want to be presented with kind of
Yeah,
challenging stuff in media. I
yeah.
guess at the end of the day, after we decided that like maybe there were more problems than there were solutions in this movie. But you're right. It definitely was a thinker.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's so interesting that like Jacques Audiard decided to make this movie in Spanish. He doesn't speak Spanish. Like, he doesn't speak it. He only speaks
Really?
French and like
Wow.
Yeah.
maybe English, but like so he didn't he couldn't read the script. He couldn't like speak to the Spanish speaking actor. Like what a weird choice.
Wow. I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very strange, well, I shouldn't say strange, I guess unconventional.
Well,
Unconventional.
Quite
yeah.
unconventional, yeah.
I think that is a little bit emblematic though of how for me it felt kind of fractured and I think the fact that it was filmed on a soundstage and not in Mexico, is kind of telling to me because I know, like, obviously you can't film on location all the time, but that, like as Stephanie mentioned, there's some problematic things, and it does feel a little bit regressive. It feels like it's a foreigner's vision of Mexico that is pieced together from many different stereotypes from many different years. But it's just, I honestly, I just wasn't that compelled by it. Like at the end of the day, like I was kind of bored after a while. I was like, this isn't it's not giving me enough. It's not like it's kind of giving me things that are, borderline offensive, but then also not very compelling. And there's a lot of for me, there was a lot of I couldn't really figure out whose motivations were what, and it was I don't know. And the music, like I said have said before, it felt forced, sometimes, and no one there was, like, a great singer either, it was, like
Mm.
except for Selena Gomez, um, and so it just you know yeah, I don't know, it just felt like a little bit like a big kind of like a thing with a bunch of feathers and nothing below almost. I don't know.
Interesting. So, in terms of compelling, I want to talk about this because I feel like there are two different arcs in this movie, and one is, um, the Zoe Saldana's character's arc, and then the other one is Amelia Perez's arc herself. And I think you're right. I think to the extent that neither of them were as compelling as maybe we wanted them to be, I wonder if they were like fighting for like
Yeah,
whose movie this was.
yeah.
Because, like, in a
Mm.
musical, so I'm not like a member of any of the communities that are probably offended by this movie, except for the musical theater community, for which,
I do wanna mention though, he imagined it apparently as an opera at first, and to me, it
right.
makes more sense as an opera because operas have nothing to do with normal life. Like, operas do not have anything to do with how things actually are, they're always, like, kind of fantasy and parables and stuff. Anyways, Rachel, go on.
Yes,
So the
Right.
you're
2
so
arcs, yeah.
right. This would have
Mhm.
been totally different, like structurally, if it were an opera. But if it's going to be a musical, what we need to know who our main character is. So either it's I'm sorry, I forgot Zoe Saldana's character's
I
name.
don't remember either.
Um,
Rita.
Rita. Okay.
Rita? Okay.
So it's going to be Rita or it's going to be Amelia, and I think that that was muddled because
Mhm.
the film is called Amelia Perez. So like you kind of assume that she will be the main character, but I kind of think it's Rita's story.
Yeah.
So then I'm kind of
Yeah.
wondering, like, we are presented with this character first, and she does have a musical number. And normally in a musical, that would be like the I Want song, and that would set us up for
Mhm.
what this character's motivation is going to be throughout the entire show. But what we got in Amelia Perez was like her kind of like kvetching about having a little bit of ennui in her career and, uh, you know, not
Well,
really.
she defends a guy that, murders his wife or partner or something, and she's really conflicted about that. And I
Right.
think that, like what she like wants is like something more meaningful, more meaningful work for people that are not assholes. And then it's interesting how they bring it over to like, okay, there's this cartel drug cartel leader who is ruthless and violent, but he wants to, end that part of his life and become a woman. And yeah, I mean, there is no Amelia Perez without Rita, right? So I feel like Rita, like, can like could definitely be it could be Rita's, story. Like she could be the lead. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's,
Now I'm
yeah.
rambling.
No, you're right. Like, it's like we don't know. It's confusing. So that would be my first issue is that, like, I wasn't set up for like what I was gonna see in this movie. So I was a little bit confused a lot of the time. And then also, I didn't think that the music, like Gretchen was saying, was like super motivated. In a musical, you're supposed to, people start singing when they like can't speak anymore. They absolutely like their emotions are so strong and they have to start singing. And these songs kind of seemed more like opera songs where like you come to the marketplace and everyone is singing and because it's an opera, that's
Yeah.
why they're singing.
Yeah, yeah.
Um so, I don't know, but I thought, I mean, obviously Zoe Saldana did a lot and was putting in a great performance. I think we have to talk about El Mal, which is one of the Oscar nominated songs, which was the one in the I guess in the ballroom when they're having their fundraiser.
Mhm.
She kind
Oh,
of
that one. Yeah, that was memorable.
It was memorable, but like, did this work for you guys? Like, I don't
Mhm.
know. Give me your impressions, Steph.
Um, I feel like at times, like it worked like I wanted it to work. I felt like I knew what I could like sort of intuit what they were trying to do. But it didn't. it didn't, like, completely land for me.
Yeah, I felt
Yeah.
that
But it did
too.
remind me that Zoe Saldana was trained as a ballet dancer, like, her choreography, her movements are, like, quite
Yeah.
nice, I
She
thought, actually,
yeah.
in that number, I
It's a
noticed
lot of
that.
posing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but it didn't 100% land for me, honestly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do think that like that scene leading up to the fundraiser was one of my favorite scenes. I actually had to watch it again because at first I was like it didn't sink in, but then when they were talking before the fundraiser, they were like backstage and she was like, "Oh, well, who did you invite? Did you invite like, you know, these rich people or those rich people?" And Amelia says, "No, like I'm only friends with criminals. I invited the criminals."
Yeah.
And then when we
Mhm.
go out
Mhm.
into the audience, it's all of the politicians and the leaders of industry and, people who like you
Yeah.
would assume would be like, the people that Rita expected her to invite, but Amelia's only
Yeah.
experience of them is as criminals. So like I
Yeah.
thought that
Right.
was they landed one with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, I forgot about that,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, that's a really good point.
That's
But then they
very
shot
true.
it like almost in complete darkness. Like it was really it
Yeah.
was like the opposite of like when you shoot a musical number on a soundstage, it's so that you can light it nicely and like have it look like a, 1930s Hollywood musical. And this looked like, a school play that somebody was doing
Yeah.
in a cafetorium. Like
Yeah.
I wanted more
It
lighting
was
in all
weird.
of the
That's a
dance
really
numbers.
good
You're
it's a really
right.
good
Yeah.
analogy. I know, like, if they're shooting it on a soundstage, how is the lighting the
Oh,
way it
yeah.
was?
Yeah, it should have been more focused if or like but it's just better overall. But
Just
yeah, I
more, just
mean,
more light.
just
Yeah, it
more.
should have been used to communicate better. I feel like that should have,
Yeah.
having shooting it on a soundstage, you're hoping to improve communication, right? And have more control over things. So, yeah, I do wish the lighting was better, like in the entire movie. But
This
anyway.
film is nominated for an Academy Award for cinematography, so we could be
Really?
wrong.
Wow. Oh my gosh,
Maybe
we
we're
could be wrong.
missing completely, but I
I
think
mean, there were certainly some nice shots, but I wasn't like, "Oh, wow, this is great."
yeah,
So,
yeah, I
yeah.
agree. I
Like with
agree.
like with Nosferatu, I was like, "Oh, this is beautiful," but like not
Yeah.
with Emilia Perez. But yeah, I totally agree with both of you. And honestly, I felt like as much as I like Selena Gomez and I appreciated her getting an interesting role here, it felt shoehorned in. It felt
Hmm.
like she wasn't getting the proper time, and then she was also distracting from the actual like we really didn't need to know anything about the like Edgar Ramirez's character. Like we didn't need to know anything for
And
the
I feel
plot
like
to
we
move forward.
didn't know anything because
No.
he's referred to as a pimp once, but like, do we
Yeah.
know if that like is his occupation or if she was just being mean?
I thought it
And
was just
like,
being mean, but I could be
but
wrong.
like maybe like this woman likes to date criminals. We don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
tell. Yeah, I was like, "Oh, is he a pimp?" And then it was never really confirmed, and yeah, I think
we needed
who
either more
knows?
or less information about this
Yeah,
character.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He needed to be like a shadow figure, literally, like not Edward Ramirez, or just like maybe
Yeah.
fleshed out a little more.
I think also like that scene was really hard for me to watch because it it was like, oh, Emilia Perez hasn't changed. It still feels like she's searching for power in a different way. The redemption didn't feel like um truthful to me. It felt like maybe there was some guilt associated with that being, becoming a father or a mother and like seeing how loss affects you, but you just saw like how cruel she still was despite
In the
everything.
scene where she calls him a pimp.
Yeah, where she's like slaps Selena Gomez and is like being a real me. I mean, like I understand she thought she was going to lose her kids, but I'm not really sure what she expected, like, being a criminal that long and then sending them away and deciding to bring them back. Like, do you think that they're just gonna live in that house forever with, like, Selena Gomez's character never leaving? Like, it was just kinda weird. I don't know, but yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, like, how, she clearly was still narcissistic and very self-centered and unrealistic, and, like, it was a miracle that she was able to transition, not get found out, and then have
Yeah,
the
like,
kids move
how the
back, so
like, how the fuck did
yeah.
no one recognize her when
I have a lot of questions about that.
yeah, yeah.
I do too, I do too. Um,
It
a lot of
yeah.
questions. I feel like I don't know. I feel like if I was married to someone and then I
Yeah.
was living in their house and they even if they had transitioned, I feel like
You'd know.
I'd
They
know.
might have a smell, their hands might feel the same, like, whatever, even and being so public, like, people will be like, "Oh, yeah, that looks like he might have transitions, like, she looks like she might that" it just doesn't make any sense. I don't know.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that little kid called it, and, like, this is
Yeah.
the one song in the musical that did work
Yeah,
for
that's the one
me
I liked. That's the one I
was
liked, yeah.
the little
Yeah.
kid singing at
Yeah.
bedtime, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, kids do be making up weird little songs when they're falling asleep," and I totally
Yeah, and
worked
it
for
made
me.
sense that, like, that's when he would wanna sing is being like, "Wow, you're just like my dad." Like, that's so nice, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I
when
that
yeah.
makes a lot of sense to me. Um, but yeah, I think overall I just felt like and also I did read that which is interesting, and I don't know how I feel about this, but originally the transition was supposed to be a comedic, thing, and
I don't like that.
and yeah, and the actress convinced the director to
I
make it
don't
more
think we're
serious.
there culturally yet. I don't
Yeah,
think
I mean, it's
that's
almost like
yeah.
Mrs. Doubtfire in the criminal world if
Yeah.
you do that, like, I don't
I'll
understand.
tell you where
Like
we are in life is that we are rhyming rhinoplasty with vaginoplasty,
yeah, that
and
is not a rhyme, that's not a good rhyme, that is not espresso, I guess so, at all, but
no,
yeah.
it's truly not.
No.
That scene was insane, that scene was
I
insane.
I
I was
know.
like
I was like, "Did I really just hear that come out of" Okay, great.
yeah, yeah,
So I
and
can
just
see
like the
where it could have been
dancing
like a comedic moment,
yeah.
or like meant to be a comedic moment.
Yeah, they're like, "Okay, I'll make this a little more serious," but that song and musical number was ridiculous. I'm like, "Oh, this feels like it should be in a comedy, but it's not." Yeah.
It was like Rocky Horror Picture Show with drug dealers.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
It was
know
crazy.
I don't know why, but I got, like, weird, like, bad SNL vibes from it. I was like,
Yeah, it just feels
"This no."
yeah, I
Like
mean, they didn't even need that they coulda cut that whole number and it would've been fine. Like, she doesn't we don't need to show her going to different countries to be, like,
Well, this is my
talking
thought
about
is that,
yeah.
yeah, they could have cut all of the musical numbers and it would have been
Yeah.
fine, and, like, it
Yeah.
pretty much would have been the same movie.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like and look, if this guy had decided to make it an opera on stage, it might have been a different situation, but it's not. It's just not. So, I don't know. Yeah, that was
gosh, yeah, the
crazy.
last 10 minutes were such, like, opera material too.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah, Selena's character, I forget her name now.
Jesse.
Rec Jessie,
Oh, yeah, that's
yeah,
right. Yeah.
Jessica. Yeah, she Amelia tells her who she is, and immediately, like, you have this moment where you're like, is she gonna reject her? Is she gonna, like, have, like, a really awful reaction to her husband having transitioned? Like, and her immediate reaction is that of, like, loyalty and if not love, and it's kind of like sweet in a weird way. I mean, they're
Yeah.
racing down a dirt road, there's guns, like Amelia's in the trunk. It's very violent, but like in a weird way, it was like touching that she was suddenly like, my husband is in the trunk.
It was
Stop, we need to stop
very
this.
operatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I did appreciate the one conversation they had where Emilia Perez said to Jesse, was he a good husband? So I thought that was an interesting conversation until she was saying like, "Oh, did you cheat on him?" And then I was like, "Oh, she's gonna kill her." But I did think that was quite interesting to have. Like, can you imagine being able to have that conversation with like a former boyfriend or girlfriend? Like that would be,
That'd be
I mean,
crazy.
especially after having kidnapped and like
yeah,
accidentally gotten them shot. Like,
yeah. I know. Yeah, yeah. I know.
yeah, it was super dramatic at the end there. But honestly, like I enjoy getting to see Selena Gomez chew the scenery a little bit.
Oh yeah. I again, I like everything she did with the character. I don't think that the character was right for the story. Like I don't think we needed to know that much about her, but to keep the story moving. But she could have had her like that could have been its own story
Did
in
we
itself.
not? I mean, I feel like it was all intertwined though. I feel like in a way, it's not just about Amelia
Yeah, but
and
we didn't need to like
Rita.
I didn't we didn't need to see her like in the like singing karaoke with Edgar Maria Ramirez. Like that wasn't integral to anything. Like it was
Yeah, but I
just
don't think her character should have been like some
no,
shadow figure either. I feel
no, her
like
character could have been a lot
her
smaller.
character was very important, I felt,
Well, what I
for,
was gonna say is that it either in my mind it should have been either Emilia Perez and Rita, that would have been the movie, or Emilia Perez and Jesse, and that would have been the movie. And I feel like it gets muddled when you have them all together, and like I don't
Three's a
know.
crowd.
And also the new girlfriend who like
Yeah, yeah,
the woman that she meets at the
Yeah.
NGO that has the knife or whatever.
Yeah. I know you think she's gonna get like murdered and then you realize, oh, they're gonna fall in love.
yeah.
Yeah, I got the point of like having that story. I didn't think it was like that's one I felt like, that could have been removed and the movie would have still moved along, but I felt like it really made me think because I'm just thinking about this woman who transitioned, who went to these great lengths to fake their own death and separate from their family and everything, like the power of their love for their children to risk it all to reconnect with their kids. I just thought that was really like I don't know, interesting. Um sorry, that probably sounds really obvious, but like
No,
I
I think
mean, I just didn't think that would be like Amelia's main motivating factor. I thought that after she transitioned, like she would really just cut ties and,
But I don't think that
move.
was for me. That wasn't an act of love because if she really loved them, she would have left them alone, given her criminal history and the risk she was putting them under to bring them back. So I
I
think
don't know. I feel like if she like you can't really say like she didn't love them. If
no,
she
but
really
I
loved
think
them,
there
she
was a
would have left them
selfishness.
alone. Oh,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely. But there's also a selflessness about that too, which is yeah, I mean, I felt like moments like that in the movie, like you can see how she was this drug kingpin, but also how she's still got these very like human emotions and motivations. She's not like some sociopath or something.
definitely
Self-centered,
a little bit
narcissistic.
narcissistic.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, you do have to be a little bit of a sociopath to do what she did, though.
It's true. She did
So,
like murder a lot of people.
Yeah,
yeah.
probably. But I'm saying like there were sparks of
No, it's a humanist.
humanity, like
Like, there was a reason that the kids were there is to give her some humanity along with the transition, I think. But
Well,
yeah.
so that's the
mhm.
interesting question is that like and this is I think something that has come up as being like not the greatest part of this narrative is that like, you know, is the transition as part of getting this character absolved for all of their like drug cartelling and murdering like is that part okay or like really cuz to me I'm like, you know, the the transitioning part of this movie is kind of neither here nor there but, like, this is a story about, like, can a person be redeemed for having been, like, a cartel leader by then, like, running an NGO? And for me, the answer is no. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you say that, I wonder, could this story work if Amelia Perez had not transitioned and just gotten, like, plastic surgery to look different? Like,
Right, like, would we have
would
seen
that
kind of the same movie?
Ye yeah, yeah, I kind of think we did. I'm not even sure what the transition did for us there, except for I mean, knowing it was supposed to be comedic really changes things because I think it
It
was
gives me so much ick.
I know.
Yeah.
Because in a way it was supposed to it did give her some humanity knowing that she struggled in that body of the male body, but then it's not really addressed again after that initial, talk with
Yeah.
Zoe. So, yeah, if Amelia Perez had not transitioned, then just, you know, yeah, looked different, would it have been the same? And I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and, like, were they trying to say that, like, being brought up in this, like, culture of machismo and, like,
Mhm.
all of that sort of stuff that happens when you grow up as a male, which, like, did that contribute to then making a career out of violence? And, like, that's, you know,
That's an
Yeah.
interesting movie. I don't think that we
maybe.
went far enough. I don't think we went far enough with that because that to me is like an interesting question. Um, the gender idea of it. But yeah, I mean, would an NGO have been started if she had not transitioned? I don't know. And is that a more woman forward thing to do? Like the softer side? Is that
Yeah,
and
it's
I
like the
don't
male side,
know.
the violence, and the
Yeah.
female side,
Mhm.
the, like, nurturing.
Yeah. And that feels a little bit
Yeah.
reductive, but
Yeah, that
yeah.
bothered me about it too.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
okay, now that Amelia's transitioned, she can start having a conscience and um feelings differently about how she was acting. It felt very stereotypy to me in that, you know,
Yeah.
that part did.
So I'm wondering that, like, when all of these voters originally saw this film and they decided to nominate it 13 times, like, I'm wondering what exactly we're seeing there, because I tried to look into this, and, like, a kind of cursory search of the internet didn't really yield results for the demographics of who was nominating. They had, like, the race demographics of the Oscar voters, but they didn't have it broken
Mm.
out. I was looking for it by, like, age, um,
Oh,
because I'm wondering if, because of, like, the age of the writer director and possibly the age of the voters, like, if they are just not aware of, like, kind of like the uncool nature of some of this stuff, or, like, didn't pick up on it,
Mhm.
because on paper this
yeah.
has
On
all
paper,
of the
yeah.
bullet points of being, like, a full Oscar bait movie.
Mhm.
Like, it
Mhm.
Mhm.
has, like, a socially conscious theme, it has a female-led cast, it has all of it's not in English, it has all of this stuff, and which is, I think,
Mhm.
why the algorithm that runs Netflix thought that it would be really successful. And then, like, maybe ultimately it was successful for them, I don't know. They did seem to be putting a lot of power. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything to say that Netflix is putting a lot of money behind an Oscar campaign, because they put a lot of money behind everything, but,
Yeah.
it seemed like
Yeah.
that's the direction that they were going, initially anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what everybody's thoughts were, or if everybody was just like, this is great. Like, kind of like you said, Stefan, like, this is fresh. This is something I haven't seen before. Like, I'm really digging this.
I think that that's probably like where they were kind of coming from when it got nominated. I guess. Yeah, that would be my best guess because we've talked a lot about the problems that we had with it, and there are a lot. Um so yeah, I mean, I think that it's quite possible that they just, they thought, okay, this is like a fresh thing. something they haven't seen before. Yeah.
If you read the synopsis and knew the bullet points, like Rachel was saying, like, would you be like, "Oh, this is perfect. This is kind of movie we wanna promote." But it's almost like, they didn't watch it and see all the problems with it. It's so weird. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe. I actually,
Yeah.
anecdotally, I spoke to one Oscar voter this
Mhm.
Oscar season, and they said that they had watched about 45 minutes of one Oscar nominated movie.
Oh my god.
Mhm.
Okay,
I
so they might
don't
not
think
watch
that
them
that
all.
represents everybody that is in the Academy, but
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
Okay. Yeah, no, because if you look at it, you're like, "Okay, it's, promoting XYZ, it's, amplifying these voices," but it really didn't feel that way once you actually watch
And then we have
the
to remember
movie.
that like this was coming on the heels of the 2024 election. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people's emotions were
Yeah.
represented there.
Yes, very
Yeah.
true. Yeah, it just feels like, why not? I'm sure there were other movies that did a better job. Obviously, I haven't seen that many of this, but yes, it came out right at that time. It had a lot of buzz around it for multiple reasons, and it does have, like, it's obviously diverse casting, but just not maybe appropriate casting for representing Mexico. And I think there's one person in it who's directly from Mexico, and then Selena Gomez is like Mexican American. But and I also know Zoe Saldana's character specified she's from the Dominican and
Right.
went to school in Mexico. So there was that. um, but it just felt like someone. It felt like it had no nuance and no finesse with these very difficult topics. And it
Hmm.
was just like, "We're gonna hit it
Mhm.
over the hammer." And everyone's like, "Great." Like, "We hit all the topics." And it's like, "No, that's not how this should be working." And I don't know. So, um, I didn't love it.
So yeah, ultimately a complicated film.
Yeah.
There were things about
Mhm.
it though. Like I do really respect the work that Zoe Saldana put in, and I do think that she would be
Mhm.
a great
Yeah.
choice for the supporting actress award.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Agreed.
She
I think
and
she
I
was
think,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah, all 3 women headlining, I mean, they're obviously all very talented, and I thought they all, I thought they all did pretty well with, the what they were given to work with. Um,
Yeah, the performances were not the
yeah.
problem.
No.
No, no,
That's
definitely
correct.
not.
Yeah. I think Zoe Saldana and really popped. I think Selena Gomez did a great job. I felt less compelled, honestly, by Sophia or Carla Sofia Gascon. Um, I didn't feel like that was quite as powerful for me, even before all the stuff came out. But that was just me. Maybe I'm
No,
just
I can relate to that
yeah.
feeling. I felt like, I mean, not I mean, she gave a good
She was
performance,
fine. I
like,
just feel like
I'm
around
not
the people around her like were so amazing. It was hard
Yeah,
to
I mean,
yeah.
it was amazing to see Zoe Saldana in that role.
I would have taken another pass at the screenplay, that's all I'm saying, but
Yeah.
generally, and then also like I feel bad that we have all of these like questions about like the regressiveness of the narrative relative to being like a movie about a person that's transitioning, and then we have the only, to my knowledge, trans member of the cast, and they're being,
Yeah.
because of like their own actions, being excluded from now the
Yeah.
narrative of the awards run. So it's just like
Yeah.
creating this like Ouroboros of ick around this movie that I
Yeah.
wish was not
Yeah.
the case. And like, that's opera, babe. That's tragedy.
Yeah. That's so true. Yeah,
It
no,
is
that's a
so
good
true.
point.
Yeah.
And I do wanna note, like, none of us we're all cis het females. So, like, I know I've read about, authors being like, "Yeah, and just to note, my trans friends did not have a problem with this movie." It's, we're not speaking for everyone, obviously, but
Sure. I mean, obviously,
it's,
Carla Sofia decided to make this movie, and we
yeah,
assume was
yeah.
on board with how it went down.
Yeah, and she
Mhm.
even gave input and it was taken into account because she apparently made it be more of a genuine, transition than a joke, which feels very weird that someone was doing that, as we said. But
Yeah.
so I appreciate that. But yeah, it did feel that for some reason that medical scene, like song numbers really got to me.
Rhinoplasty,
Like,
vaginoplasty.
yeah, it was like, even if it's just about like a makeover, I don't want to hear. This is not how I want to hear this or get this communicated to me.
And of course, it's
Yeah,
like the most stereotypical, like they fly
yeah,
first to Bangkok and there's like people
hmm
like
Yeah.
doing choreography on gurneys. Like I can
yeah,
absolutely see how like some ill-conceived comedy might have been the point, and like
yeah. Yeah,
was
totally.
wasn't
And like
great.
they should have no, they should have cut that number when it was no longer comedic. They should have been like, we're not going to do this. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways. So, what do we think the odds are for Oscars? I mean, I know it's hard to talk about the Oscars without thinking about it holistically, but where do you think, especially given all the information that we have now, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think because so in the foreign film category, we have Emilia Perez and I'm Still Here, and also in the Best Picture category, we have Emilia Perez and I'm Still Here. So, and I think it's like, there are obviously other um, foreign films that I didn't see, and so I
Yeah.
can't really
Yeah.
talk about. Sorry, international feature film. So yeah, I'm Still Here, Emilia Perez, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, Flow, and The Girl with the Needle. Now, I can tell you anecdotally that people love Flow, but it's also
I've heard that
nominated
too.
in Animated Picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I haven't seen it
I haven't
yet.
either, but I've heard people love it apparently.
yeah, I've heard really good things about Seed
Cool.
of the Sacred Fig. Um, you know, I don't know. I think that we're kind of in a similar boat with I'm Still Here, which is that there's
Mhm.
a little bit of scandal in that actress's past. There was maybe like a blackface incident.
Oh,
Um, so
yeah,
it,
that's probably not gonna fly these days for winning, right?
well, I don't know if that would affect it in like in the film category.
Yeah.
Oh.
Certainly in like the best actress category. I don't know if that disqualifies her. Um, and then like if that disqualifies her, do we also have to at least subtract partial points from Adrian Brody for that time that he introduced Sean Paul on SNL in a Jamaican accent? I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know where the
What
line
was
is.
that? Yeah. What was
So
that?
I
I don't
didn't
know.
see that. I'm gonna have to look
Oh,
that
that's
up.
from many years ago. It was crazy.
and
Yeah.
I'm sorry to bring
Yeah.
it up because I really do hope that he wins, but I want to be fair to everyone.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know if Fernanda Torres is really. I don't know if Fernanda Torres was really a front runner in the Best Actress category anyway. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know about the foreign language film. I think that Emilia Perez probably is not on anybody's ballot number 1, 2, or 3 at this point.
Mhm.
Having kind
I
of
would
gone
agree with
quiet
that.
on the campaign front, amidst all of the scandal, I think things have kind of weirdly cooled down, like politically in America. Um, so think, I don't know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's probably right. I think you're pretty accurate with your the brutalist. Uh yes.
Although, like, pretty much shut out at all the Guild Awards.
Oh
So,
yeah. And Honora did in the Palme d'Or and the what else? It won something
yes.
else, right? Yeah.
It won PGA, DGA, and WGA.
Yeah.
So the producers, directors, and writers guilds.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, Honora is great, and it's
Mhm.
much more fun than Amelia Perez.
Yeah. I still gotta see it. I'm gonna try to go this week in Westwood, hopefully.
Yes, you
Um,
will like it. It's very, very
yeah,
good.
yeah,
I would love for us to be able to do a deep dive on the Brutalist before the Oscars, just because,
yeah,
I mean, if you thought that there were a lot of themes in this movie, oh my God, there's That movie is it's 3 hours long for a reason.
Okay, that's
Almost
good.
4 hours long. It's about a
I gotta
lot of
watch it
things.
then.
Have you both seen it?
Not yet, it's on my list too.
All
Hopefully I'm gonna
right,
go
I'll
this
have
week.
to.
Yeah.
Is it stream? Like, can I buy it to stream or do I have to go to the literal movie theater?
I
Which
don't
is fine.
know.
I always think like streaming it at home will be easier, but sometimes I think that's actually harder because then you have to get yourself to sit down, find out where it is, debate spending the money. It's like going to the movie theater, you just obviate all those conundrums.
Yeah.
So,
I think I always
yeah.
recommend that people see things in theaters, but with The Brutalist in particular, it's shot so specifically and so beautifully, and the music is really specific. And I feel like it was, like you do have to spend almost 4 hours in a movie theater, but there's an intermission. And
There's an
There's
I
an
highly,
intermission.
intermission?
What?
Oh my gosh,
yeah, you're
that's
gonna have to
crazy.
pee.
I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
actually been to a movie with an intermission.
Alright, I think I have to get a ticket for this then. I don't think I have either.
Absolutely. And then we
Yeah.
can discuss whether or not we think that directors should have final cut and what
Okay,
that means.
good point.
Because I
Yeah.
left that theater, feeling so many things. But one of them was very, very angry at Brady Corbet. Angrier, I think, than I was when I heard his Golden Globes speech. And so I don't know. But I
Why were you
really liked it.
angry in
Well,
particular?
so you'll see. I won't spoil it,
Okay,
but
don't spoil
when
it.
the credits roll, my first emotion was just like, yeah, go fuck yourself,
Mhm.
Brady.
Okay.
Really? Okay. All right.
And yeah, and it was a similar like emotion to when he pulled out his phone at the Golden Globes. So that's kind of those are my thoughts on him specifically as a person, but I did really love that movie.
Okay. Alright, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna try to go tomorrow if I can. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So
Alright,
yeah, is
cool.
there anything else going on in the world? The only
Mhm.
news that I have coming down the pike, which I am excited about, was that the Met Gala theme and co-chairs and all of that stuff was announced for 2025. So we will definitely get into that on a future episode.
Yes.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
excited.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Yay. Alright.
Yay!
Yay.
All right, we
Emilia
did it.
Perez. Yeah.
Emilia Perez. Many thoughts, but hey,
Hey, it's out there.
it's out there.
It's in
It's
Lots
the
to
out
talk
world.
there.
about.
Yeah.
Well, the Oscar voting is open, so we will see.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Okay. Well,
The
it'll be fun.
suspense.
All right. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining us this
Thanks for
week.
joining us. As always, get
Yeah.
in touch if you have thoughts on Amelia Perez. If you
Yes.
think that rhinoplasty, vaginoplasty is the best rhyme ever written, we also want to hear from you.
We'd
Um,
love to hear that from you.
Yeah.
We're
please
super curious.
send us an email to nysofalites@gmail.com or follow us on social, nysofalites on Instagram. And we would love to hear from you.